right? So Mr. Walton comes out and invites me in, and we sit down, and we chat just a little bit. But really almost instantly, I really liked him as a businessman. Just something about his presence, his demeanor was pretty neat, and evidently he liked me okay. Maybe because I was by IBM, I'm not sure, but he was okay. But I was absolutely convinced in my mind, I'm like 99.9% sure this guy is too small for one of our computers. I mean, there's a certain size and magnitude that you should be to really economically justify expenditure of people and equipment. So I started asking him sort of key questions, how many stores you have, and I think it was 28, and what's your revenue, and he told me, and I'm really think I'm wasting his time and mine, but he's really enthused about this discussion. So we started talking a little bit more, and then he says, well, I'm really interested in doing something with IBM. Secretly going, I don't think so. But he said, but before I really would make a decision like that, I've got a couple of key executives that work for me that would have to support the idea. And I said, Mr. Walton, I'll be glad to talk to them. But I can tell you before I ever talk to them what they're going to say. He said, what? That's what they're going to tell me. They're very happy with the way they're doing it now. They're going to handle them for the foreseeable future. There's no need to change, he says. My guys will not say that. They are very responsible, bright people. I said, I'll go talk to them. And I didn't want to have to come back up there, so I said, I'll call you on the phone after I talk to them and tell you what they said. And so I came back in a couple of days, and I met with one in particular who was the key guy. And guess what he said? Exactly what you think he would say. So I called Mr. Walton up that afternoon, and I said, well, I met with Mr. X, and here's what he said. He said, oh, boy, that puzzles me. He said, okay. He said, well, look, so it's really been a great time meeting you. I'm glad we had a good discussion. Maybe in a few years we can get together. It's more appropriate. I'm really trying to be nice and get rid of him. And he said, well, look, tell you what, call me a week from today, and let's just touch base. I said, okay. So, dude, I write it in my calendar. I call him like the next Thursday. He said, well, let's talk again. I said, well, what's happening? He said, well, I sat down after you left and talked to those two guys. He said, they really did not understand what I want to do with my company. And we can proceed. They were gone. They were holding him back from his dream and what he wanted to do.
Did he fire?
I don't know exactly all the details, but they were no longer in the picture, period. So he said, let's talk. I went back up and we talked, and the fun part of the story sort of starts then, because now he is really interested, and he's made some commitments to proceed. So one thing I said to him that, because I really believed in it, I said, if you're going to be a new customer, you really need to understand how other customers have used our equipment in order to visualize how you would use it. Because a lot of when they're a brand new customer, don't have any, in those days, the late 60s, a lot of executives starting out with computers didn't know anything about information systems like people do today. It was really the dark ages for many of them. So I said, what we ought to do is have you visit 2 or 3 IBM customers and see how they're using their equipment, what they do well and what they don't do so well. So that, and if that goes well, and you like what you see and you've learned from that, then we can go the next step. And I said, would you like to do it? He said, yes, I would. I said, well, it'll take me a couple of weeks to set up the appointments. I got to talk to the IBM people here and there and make sure we get the right fit. He says, no, I'd like to do it this afternoon. Now, that's the first thing I learned about Sam Walton, is he has a different speed clock than most of us. I said, Mr. Walton, I don't see how I could possibly set up these appointments. He said, I got my own plane, I fly. That's part of his folklore, And he said, I'll tell you what we do, Jim, you sit here in my office and take that phone. I'll go in the other office, I'll take a phone, and we'll work our networks, and we'll try to get us 3 appointments for this afternoon and tomorrow morning to see retailers using your equipment. I went, okay. So I go in, I sit in his chair, he goes to the other office, we start dialing for, customers. And I got a hold of a couple of IBM branch offices, talked to them, explained the situation. And sure enough, I could arrange for 2. He arranged 1. I called this trainee who worked for me. It turned out being a big executive in IBM in later years. And I said, Phil, pack your bag, and get up here. I could not leave town to go with him. I have appointments at the university, and then unfortunately, I'm booked. And this guy really is, like a very small potato to me. So I called his trainee. I mean, he's just been out here like 6 months. He knows what a computer is, basically. He rolls up there. I take him to the airport, put him in Mr. Sam's plane, and off they go to Wisconsin and Chicago and Minneapolis.